Okay, I'll do an opening prayer. How's that? Are we ready to go?
Yep.
Ready to go.
Ready.
Okay, everybody get comfortable and relaxed in their state. And in our state of consciousness, let us become more aware of the divine presence that expresses itself through all creation. And it's expressing itself through each of us right now. And we know that the inspiration that comes through each and every one of us is endowed by the sacredness of the Holy Spirit. And that Spirit is expressing itself today through all of us, and particularly through our speaker, who is speaking on the terms of consciousness and what that means to us and how we use it and how we endeavor to express it to the best of our abilities. So we know that is good, and this is a good life, and we're going to listen to a good topic. Thank you, and so it is.
So it is.
So it is. Thank you, Charlie. That was very kind
You're
to
welcome.
include me in your prayer. Um, I'm gonna, well, first let me give you an introduction. The the part of consciousness that we're talking about today uh, is the consciousness that, in my mind, resides in the quantum field. It communicates with the quantum field. It's the part of us that isn't contained in this body, but it's the part of us that we call our higher self. And so, in the quantum field, we know that there is nothing but information. That the quantum field is where we get so much of our inspiration, so many of our desires, our beliefs, all those things are held within us, but also the best of them are held in the quantum field. The only thing that can keep us from getting information from the quantum field is really us. And that's the part I want to talk to about today. We've had other discussions about how uh, as above, so below, and that's going to figure very much in what we're going to talk about today. That whole notion of if I can change me, I change everything around me, and then everything around me changes everything around it. And it just multiplies until we live in a world that's closer to heaven than it is to earth. And that's the point of the quantum field. And that's the point of changing our beliefs so that we can change our consciousness, so that we can begin to notice things that are benefit us instead of things that make us angry, make us jealous, make us feel like we don't have enough. So I do have a PowerPoint as usual. So I am going to share. I just want to make sure I'm not sharing anything that's going to get me in trouble. Okay. All right. And I'm going to go slideshow, start from beginning. Okay. So what we're going to talk about today is really just the notion that understanding the quantum field, the quantum principles can help create transformation. And again, I said that transformation starts with us, but it's transformation of everything that we touch. And we do this one consciousness at a time. You know, we've talked about how so many people get in trouble trying to change or control things that are out of their control. So it's this using our discernment to figure out what we can change about ourselves, because really that is where our realm of control exists, is with ourselves, not with anyone else or anything else. So consciousness participates in the unfolding of reality. So what do we mean by that? We mean that our consciousness, what we perceive, creates our reality. And I know that Charlie will share with me in the understanding that is pretty much what all of the old philosophers used to talk about. The Emmett Foxes, the Trowbridges, the Catherine Ponders that we so often talk about. This is essentially the thing that they were saying is what you believe what you perceive is what you see, what you create. And it's kind of like that notion, you know how when you get a yellow car and you're driving down the road, I know we talked about this maybe last week or the week before, but when you get a yellow car and you never thought you'd have a yellow car because no one else has a yellow car, and then all of a sudden you get in your yellow car, you start driving down the road, and every third car is a yellow car. It's because you've opened your consciousness to yellow carness. And so it's just that simple. If we open our consciousness to things beside what we're focusing on right now, we will begin to see, we can choose what we wish to see, what we wish to be conscious of. So, quantum physics, it's shrouded in mystery, and it seems like it's a very heady thing. It is so much of where we live, what we're made of. And understanding it helps us to understand reality. So what we're going to do now is talk about how we can shift not only our field, but the collective field, which includes culture, community, and politics. We can create, again, we can start to bring heaven down to earth by changing our inner world. So we just talked about this: beliefs shape perception, and perception, then our perception shapes community. The biggest example of this has been the whole feud. I don't know if you've been keeping up with it with the comedians on TV lately. They'll say something, maybe intending to be a little biting, but someone will hear it and go, oh my goodness, we have to cancel this person, or we have to stop their show because they're insulting. Because one person got insulted, or two people, or a whole community got insulted. And that level of insult is how they perceived that comment. Others may have perceived that comment as being funny and laughed. But so now the people who are perceiving that as an insult are now not only angry with the comedian, but they're also angry with the people who laughed. And the people who laughed can't understand why the people who were offended. And so to me, that kind of encapsulates what's going on in our consciousness these days. So what we believe shapes what we see. So in quantum experiments, and we've talked about that. You guys remember the double slit experiment where an electron is fired off, and sometimes it acts as an electron, sometimes it acts as a wave, and it depends on the observer. What the observer wants to see, the observer will see. And so that experiment translates into our lives if we think about the yellow car. What we expect to see, or what we want to see, what we become conscious of, all of a sudden we see it everywhere. My biggest example personally is I named my daughter Caitlin, thinking it was this unique and unusual name that paid homage to, my lineage, her lineage. And all of a sudden, everybody that year, there's like 4,000 Caitlins for anything else, so it was like our consciousness, the mothers of that year or that decade or whatever, all of a sudden got together and decided everyone should be called Caitlin. I don't understand how that happened or why it happened, but it certainly did. And that's what I noticed about my daughter's name. And that's what my daughter keeps reminding me: Mom, you gave me such a common name. It wasn't common at the time. So that's what we notice. And we notice what we fear. Why is that? Well, it's because we want to stay alive, right? And we have these old brains, these amygdalas that fire off whenever there's a little bit of something that could hurt us. And so if we're not in control of ourselves and our perceptions, we become afraid of everything, right? And we all know people like that. I can be like that too. It's just what we fear, and we always fear the thing that scared us last time. And so that's the thing we're going to see, is what we fear, what we hope for, the desire that we hold in our minds and in our thoughts. That's the thing that we want to observe, is what we hope for. And so we'll see other people who have what we hope for. And if we're not careful, we're going to become jealous of those people because we want what they have. And our perceptions also color all of these emotions. Remember, thoughts beliefs, or thoughts, emotions, and actions, they cause us to treat other people however we treat them. So if we're jealous of someone, how are we going to treat them if we're not conscious? If we're in love with someone, how are we going to treat them if we're not conscious? If we're in love with someone and we are, maybe lower on the consciousness scale, it tends to become control. So it's very much where our consciousness is. And it reflects just about everything we do. And then, I talked about how we interpret events as the comedian with the joke that was offensive to some, but funny to others. So here's another example. Everybody watches the news and we all come away with something different. Neighbor A will come out with the feeling people are dangerous. And because of that belief in their mind, they're going to see threats everywhere and they're going to react with fear and suspicion with the people that they meet. Now, neighbor B, people are hurting. They take that same information. Their conclusion is that people are hurting. That's their belief. So they see shared pain and try to react with compassion and do something to maybe alleviate some of that pain. So our beliefs really do color, if you will, how we act in the world. So if we can change our beliefs, remember, it's if we can change our beliefs, that's our thoughts, then we change our behaviors, that's our actions. Then we can change the culture. So we change our beliefs, which cause our emotions, which cause us to act. And if we change ourselves, maybe we don't take offense quickly when someone slights us or we perceive a slight. Maybe instead we laugh. We've just changed the culture, at least in that communication we have. And, like it says at the bottom, multiply that one little change by millions of people. And all of a sudden you get a society that's a little bit kinder, one interaction at a time. So our attention, what we pay attention to, and you've heard it for years and years, what you pay attention to grows. And what you pay attention and what you focus on becomes your reality. And we learned from things like the double split experiment and various other experiments that once a situation is observed, once an action is observed, then it leaves the realm of possibility in the quantum and it comes down to 3D as a reality, right? It's either a wave or a particle, but only after it's been observed. And it's the same with our attention. And everybody talks about having short attention spans. Do you think that maybe that's part of the reason our reality is so confusing is because we simply don't know where to place our attention? And so it's time to become intentional with our attention and focus our attention on, hey, how can I be more kind? Hey, how can I be more compassionate to that person who is just unkind? If we could do that, just imagine. So when we amplify fear, that's what I was just talking about, we get division and outrage. And all of us are living, that's a lived experience for many of us right now. If we could amplify compassion, we would come up with solutions and a shared humanity. And the quantum experiments have shown that. For example, here's one solution. A community group decides to stop doom scrolling and complaining and starts hosting weekly solution circles. They focus on what's working, what's possible, and what they can do. So instead of focusing on, oh my God, that politician is such a jerk. I can't believe we elected them. I can't believe what they're doing. There's nothing we can do. And we've all heard that. We've all felt that lately. But if we were to shift our focus on what's working, what is possible, and what can we do, in this particular case, the example is that their neighborhoods felt different. Not because the problems were still there, not because they vanished, but because their field of attention shifted. They shifted become from the problem and being part of the problem to solutions, whether they could implement them or not. They saw that there were solutions. And then the way the brain works in the quantum level, once we realize that there's solutions, our brains, they're actually machines that will help us to bring these solutions into fruition. But we have to focus on the solutions. We have to know that they're there, and we have to be willing to implement them if they come to our attention. So again, where attention goes, energy flows. So whatever we give our energy to, whatever we attend to, is what happens to come into our world. That's what colors how we see what comes into our world. And so it's up to us to be vigilant about what we attend, about how we think, and about how we perceive what's going on around us. That doesn't mean that we should be in an abusive situation, nothing like that. But it does mean that anything short of where someone is actually physically hurt or abused, you can shift your attention, we can shift our attention and change it. So consciousness, our consciousness in the quantum participates in the outcome. In other words, the observer isn't separate from the observed. So the way that the observer gets entangled with what they're observing is, first of all, to observe with an open mind, to intend to see things in a good light, and then to perceive them well. And that's all we have to do to change things for ourselves. Why would we even want to do this? Well, in my mind, it makes more sense to live in a world where I'm not afraid, where I feel like I have some agency, where I feel like I can be creative, where I can be safe, than to live in a world where I don't feel safe, where I can't be creative, where I'm attending to negative things. And so that's why we would do it. It's not really for anyone else, it's for us, so that we can bring heaven into our lives, and then we could share that heaven with others. So what that means is your presence matters. It means that, we see the commercials, and maybe we've done this ourselves, but a whole family's at dinner and everybody's looking at their phones, right? They're in a restaurant, supposed to be having a good time, good conversation, and they're all on Facebook, probably even texting each other, who are sitting right there. I mean, that's the extreme of it. But know that your presence matters. Just being able to give yourself fully to a conversation, to give yourself fully to a feeling, to give yourself fully to a creative idea, that's your presence. And that is your consciousness, right? That is you connecting to the quantum and bringing the quantum down. Know that your voice matters. It's so easy for us to think that this is what I believe, but nobody else will believe like me, or I won't be able to change anybody's mind, so why bother? Well, I think it's time we have discussions like we used to, not arguments where everybody ends up hating each other and taking different sides, but have real discussions, which is what we try to do here at Sunday service, is to share our opinions, to share our experiences, because each of us has a different experience of the same thing. And that is becoming so clear these days. Becoming engaged with things, just if you have a hobby, if you're into politics, if you're into religion, whatever you're into, engage with that. Give your attention to that, something that is constructive, something that can help you learn, rather than dispersing your attention across social media or whatever you attend to. And then your beliefs do matter. Your beliefs are based on a lot of things. They're based on what you were born into. Many of us were born into a religion that our parents believed or were born into. And from that, there were things you could do and things you couldn't do, and those became beliefs, ways you could dress. I can remember my grandma telling me, never wear white after Labor Day. Okay, I won't do that. You know, I won't do that then. But I mean, for her, it was a big belief. You couldn't wear, what's those, like woven anything either. It had to be all leather. And I mean, there were so many beliefs around uh, social mores and things. So your beliefs matter because if you don't know what you believe, you can't examine those beliefs. Will I wear white after Labor Day? Oh, I might. I'll tell my grandma I'm sorry. Just wear white today. But if I had just gone, she went her whole life believing you couldn't do that. But if I examine that belief and in light of my circumstances, it seems a little silly, but to her that was the thing. She would point out people who wore white when they shouldn't be wearing white.
Oh, funny.
So here's a story just about a woman who uh, she didn't think she was political. Um, and she didn't think that she had a voice, but she began to go to community meetings and she began to listen to discussions and she just offered her presence. She just was there. Um, and she participated in the quantum field while participating in the 3D world. And I think that we could do that. I think that we can, um, if we attend, if we bring our presence, if we pay attention, we can be in both worlds at the same time. And as we know, this is pretty much what we've been talking about the whole time with the double slit experiment. Remember, that was the electron or the wave, that the observer determines the outcome. In that experiment, if the observer thought they were going to see an electron, they would. And then it would become an electron. If they thought they were going to see a wave, then they would see a wave pattern and it would be frozen in the wave pattern. So in the quantum, there's unlimited possibilities. What we see changes those possibilities or probabilities. It's a very that's a weird word, but it's a word that's applied to this because they're probabilities. But we decide which of those probabilities we want to see. So we're actually deciding which of those worlds we want to live in. And it very much is a personal choice. Many of us might be aware of people who nothing goes right for them. They never have enough money. They never feel well. Nobody likes them and they're going to eat worms. We all know people like that. And it's not because of who they are. It's because of what they choose to see. Right? It's because of what they choose to bring into this world. And it's very easy, having lived a lot of my life as a victim, you don't have to take responsibility for anything because everybody's doing it to you, right? You're not in charge of anything. They're in charge of you. So whatever happens to you, you're like, one of those little rubber duckies on the waves, right? Just getting tossed around. But that is one way of looking at life. And it's the way a lot of people look at life. It's not a bad way to look at life, but I don't think it's the most resourceful way to look at life. Knowing that we have this ability to go into the quantum, to pick out a probability that suits us, that is resilient, a probability that makes us successful, a probability that gives us agency, that to me is the way to live life. So we're going to talk about real quickly how this affects trauma. People talk about PTSD, and it's a very real issue, and it's actually due to changes in the brain. And I think, having experienced PTSD myself, I think that it's the overactiveness. Remember that we talked about that part of the brain that senses fear and sees things as scary. That's an overreaction of that part of the brain, and it's doing its job. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing. But there's another way, if we could teach that same brain another way to perceive, then maybe the trauma will lessen its effect on that person. And trauma shows up in a lot of ways. It's not only PTSD. Trauma actually colors the way we see things. It actually colors our beliefs about people, places, and things. And it influences, if we allow it, it influences our behavior. We've all heard the expression hurt people, right? Because they don't know any different. So if we can look at our beliefs, if we can look at our fears courageously and then decide to change, that is possible. It's not easy, but it is possible. So here's where some unhealed trauma shapes our lives. A lot of people voted out of fear uh, because they were afraid the economy was going to get bad if they stayed with who they were with. Or there's many, many reasons. They feared that we would get into another war. They feared many, many things that actually came true. And how we react to situations. We all know somebody who's an instant reactor. You say, you don't even get the words out of your mouth, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, God, I can't believe it. Um, that really doesn't give, if we act that way, that really doesn't give our mind the opportunity to process what's happened, right? To understand that maybe it's not the worst thing in the world, but there's many people who just everything is the worst thing in the world, and it kicks off their flight or fight, and it also colors the way that they look at situations. How we trust. I mean, I think if I were to say that there was a disease in this country, it would just be lack of trust. We don't trust anybody. We don't, the institutions, the things that we used to be able to trust have proven to be untrustworthy. Maybe they were always that way, but we didn't perceive them that way, and now we do. So now what? What do we trust? And that is so important to develop that discernment within ourselves so that we can learn to trust ourselves in our decisions and know that even if we make a wrong decision, if we're honest with ourselves, we can fix it. But if we go on thinking that that wrong decision, if we won't admit it's wrong, then we'll just keep on going down the wrong path, blaming everybody else for our bad decision. How we fear, again, projected dangers versus a real assessment of a situation. I'm not going to say that we should never fear anything. That would be ridiculous. But what I'm saying is let's give ourselves a little bit of time to process what's going on so that our fears are real and that so we can take real inspired action to protect ourselves and to protect others. And then how we interpret others. I had a conversation with one of my coworkers a couple of years ago, and I was talking about men in hoodies. I'm like, why do they have to wear those stupid hoodies? Because it looks like, they put the hoodie over their face and you can only see like their nose and mouth. And to me, that's intimidating. If I'm walking down the street and I can't tell who I'm walking next to, I'm going to cross the street. And I was called racist because her perception was a little bit different. She came from a culture where men wore hoodies, wore them up. It was for many reasons, not the least of which they didn't like getting their hair wet. So, I mean, there's so many reasons that people do things. I'm interpreting a hoodie as an attempt to hide their face. And she's saying, no, a hoodie is just to keep your hair dry. So, it's how we interpret others and taking the time to work through that. So many of us are like Carlos, who grew up in chaos. And we never knew when the next shoe was going to fall, right? We were always looking for betrayal and attack. And we take that with us. If we don't somehow begin to look at that and see how that affects us and decide that we don't want to be affected that way, every interaction that we had will be colored by this chaos and this betrayal that we grew up with. But working on ourselves, working in the quantum, clearing our minds, looking at our beliefs. It's a lot of work, but if we can begin to see that nuance, then we don't have to react and we can listen. And once we heal ourselves, we show up differently in the world. I think each of us could look back 20 years and say, ooh, just cringe. It may be something we believed or a way that we acted that we wouldn't do now because we've stepped out of that. And so I see us as not only us, but I see others as we show up differently now than we did 20 years ago. And that's as it should be. We should constantly be evaluating and evolving. And then if we're listening to each other, if we are really trying to understand the other side, if we are talking to each other with compassion, if we're looking at our own projections, then how could anyone come between us? How could anyone come between us and each other, right? Except for the extreme individuals who, we have to, who hurt people. But it would become easier then to have a full discussion. It would become easier then to see the other side. And it would be much harder to polarize us like we are now. And then when you choose a new version of the past, when you forgive the past, you don't forget it. You're not letting that person off the hook, but what you're doing is telling yourself, I no longer need to let this person rent free space in my brain anymore. I can move on. I can think about the situation. I can remember it, but I don't have to feel about it. And I certainly don't have to perseverate over it. So here's the story about a woman who didn't want to carry bitterness about a betrayal. And her forgiveness, the fact that she was able to forgive that, just changed who she was, and in changing who she was, changed the way that she showed up, and other people began responding to her differently because she was responding to them differently. So again, it all comes back to us, how we choose to show up. Reality isn't fixed, and there's that word, probabilistic. I had to look it up, but it's a word that means it sounds a little Spanish to me, probaba. What it means is that there's probabilities. That in the quantum field, there's probabilities. There's no set in stone way of being. There's no set in stone reality. We can change it. It used to be, I remember when I grew up, people would say, yeah, I'm this way because I'm a realist. I see things for what they are. And the truth is, they're seeing things the way they are, right? If they're angry, they're going to see things as being angry. If they're happy, they're going to see things as being happy. We all have those filters. So I'm so glad to have this information that it's all starts with me. It's the way that I choose to see things. It's the way that I choose to react that colors everything around me.
Hi.
So the future is not predetermined, as we know.
What?
Small shifts in the way that you show up can create large change. And you can always shift direction. It's not a one mistake world. It's a many mistake and many fix world where, we can forgive ourselves for not always being right. We can forgive ourselves for maybe making a poor decision by correcting it and then saying that we're not going to do that again. So, and here's just a story about some people who started interviewing people in their town just to find out what people thought about the town and what was possible. And it changed the field of the whole town's expectation, and it changed the town. I see somebody's hand up. I'm sorry. Hey, what you got? Is that you, Char? I can't see you.
Yes, I have a question in the chat field.
Okay. Okay, you do. Is there a difference between concern and fear? That sounds like a Charlie gotcha question, but I'm going to go for it. I think that a concern is an alert. I think it's a step before fear. I think, but I think we owe it to ourselves to be alert. we don't have to be fearful. So we can be concerned, but we don't have to be afraid. I think those are two very different things. I think they're on maybe opposite ends of the spectrum, if you will. Uh, that gives us the opportunity to take that concern uh, into the quantum, into our hearts, and determine whether or not it's something we need to act on, it's something that needs to be changed, if we have control over changing it, or if it's something that just will work its way out. So it's the right answer, Char.
Thank you. Now I have another question. It's pertinent to our discussion. During our discussion, I received a text from an old friend. Now, this old friend had a brain problem, and her husband at the time was a terrific caregiver. I couldn't imagine anybody doing any more than helping her during this situation. He was terrific. And then her son got a hold of her, and it looked like he helped change the opinion of his wife about her spouse and caregiver. And then she got very mean towards her husband, and she kind of stripped him of trying to take what little money he had left. I mean, he helped refurbish her house. He was very handy. He did so many great things for her that, when Bobby and I met with them, we did our best to try to help her change her attitude towards her husband, and she wouldn't do it. So he went through a real crisis situation. And this transpired maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And now she's reaching out to me. I think she's probably still living with her son that, from our perception, took advantage of her because he wanted her assets. And she's reaching out and she's telling me she loves me. So how would you respond to that?
So you have information, Charlie, um, that you can take into your heart, into your mind, into meditation, into the quantum, and try to determine the best possibility, the best outcome for you. Because I don't know, I can't tell you how to respond because I don't know what outcome you want. I don't know which of the possibilities would be best for you. And truthfully, you may not either. And that's why we always ask for the highest and the best for all involved to come through, right? That
Right.
possibility collapse into the highest and the best. So as we take that into our discernment, as we take that into our meditation, our prayers, we ask for the next step that would be the best possible outcome that would lead to the best possible outcome for everyone involved. Now, she said she loved you. Um, how many types of love is there? Is it romantic love? Is it uh, just love of a person? Is it someone reaching out? There's so many things that need clarification. But if we just go on our beliefs, oh, she's trying to take me, or her son has put her up to it so that they can steal my money. However you want to look at that, and I'm not suggesting you do, but it's a possibility that is. Um, that would color, if you allow that to color the situation, you might lose an opportunity to help. It wouldn't be bad, it's your choice, but you might just lose an opportunity to help. And ultimately, it just may not be your situation. I mean, does anybody
Yeah.
else have any thoughts on that?
I feel
Well,
like as you speak to the quantum field, it's more like being that observer. It doesn't have to be a silent observer, but I always think to myself, it's a silent observation of what is, and you can perceive what you need or want out of that. to be able to manage to be your own grounding cord around the conversation. So whether the other person is responsive or not might be another conversation, but to me, it's how I can bite my tongue when people are lashing out or saying outrageous things, and I can just be the grounding cord, like you said with this woman that you referred to. She became the observer in the room as opposed to the politician or the activist.
I'm not sure I'd want to bite my tongue. I respect my tongue. But what I've decided, I think I'll do it. For me, it's the right course, is I'm going to let her know I'm still very disappointed the way she treated her ex-husband, and that I don't never I didn't approve of that behavior, but I will still love you anyway.
It's meeting her where she is.
Yeah, I mean, she's very outgoing, a very spontaneous being. She considers herself a super duper Christian. Uh, she's free to express her feelings.
But can you forgive her,
Anyway,
Charlie? Can you forgive her for the way she treated her husband?
I'm not going to forgive her acts. I would, I feel I need to let her know that that behavior, for my concern, is not appropriate. But I will let her know that I love her, even though she's performing acts that I don't approve of. So, from my understanding and my training, um, I'm telling the truth about the experience. And I know for my own good health, I have to, I can't, I got to forgive her. Uh, I can't condemn her. And I will never do that for my own good health. It's kind of selfish, but that's my understanding of karma.
Okay. And so it sounds to me like you're using awareness and your belief about the situation, and your compassion to create a possibility in which you can still love her, but not condone her actions.
Yeah, exactly. And that's worked pretty well for me over the years because it helps me find my homeostasis or my balance. And I need to, I don't want to deny the event, the truth for me. It's a temporary truth. People can change instantly, but it's so important for me to maintain my spiritual equilibrium. And I know I cannot condemn anybody. I don't care whether it's Hitler or a politician or whatever, or what I would consider my worst enemy. For my own mental health, I need to make it clear that I'm not pleased with the behavior, but I will not condemn the individual soul. Now, along with what you've been teaching, if Dolly, if you don't mind, I will share the experience we had. Dolly, are you still there? I don't see Dolly anymore.
I'm here. I'm here.
Oh yeah. Would you mind if I share the experience of when
I
we
don't
went?
mind.
Okay. So we went to the AT&T store in the mall, outdoor mall, and while I was there, Dolly took the dog out for a walk. And a few minutes later, she comes running in and she's all upset. The dog's having a hard time breathing. We don't know what's wrong with the dog. So she handed it to me while I'm talking to the technician. Um, now I maintain my inner core of peace. I was not an alarmist, And I took the dog and I helped quiet her down where she could feel comfortable and safe. And what transpired, though, was when it happened, Dolly panicked and she, started to run, and she twisted her foot to where it sprained. And so that's kind of a good example of when we panic or we let fear run our lives, that we often end up in a dilemma that's sometimes worse than what we're experiencing emotionally. So I guess, part of what I've learned throughout my 91 years is I'm trying to pass that on to Dolly or anyone else that will listen, because I know we can change our behavior. I know we can change our life, and it is an inside job, and it relates to just exactly what you're teaching. Bobby used to say, it's not done as you believe, you believe it makes it happen. So
Right.
what you believe becomes your reality. So the bottom line is, we examine our beliefs, and if they're not helping us, they're hindering us. So we have an opportunity to work on that. That's
Thanks,
all.
Charlie. That's a great point. And examined beliefs are easy. It's those beliefs that we hold that we can't examine because we don't understand them or we don't know they're there. That's why it's just so important to be self-aware, um, to try to determine where you're at when you act. What are you acting from? Is it an unknown belief? Is it compassion? Is it love? And then decide how you want to act. I have a crazy, crazy brother, bless his heart, who would do something. He would do something to create conflict. And as soon as you tried to say something like, that's stupid, he'd be like, all right, it is. How are you going to act? That's what he would ask. How are you going to act? And I found myself asking myself when I become, a little bit off center, or when I would have a strong emotion. If I caught myself, I would ask myself, how are you going to act? And that always slowed me down, because what it told me was, whatever you're thinking, you don't have to believe it, right? Because if you believe it, you're going to act in accordance with it. And maybe you're acting on some other things, like the hungry, angry, lonely, tired stuff. Maybe it's not even a belief that you're acting on, but a physiological issue. So, Charlie, bring up a great point about, when something happens, ask yourself, how am I going to act? How am I going to act to this? And it's another way to try to figure out where it's coming from. So, if enough individuals shift, the collective field shifts, and we could do this one consciousness at a time, just by changing these things, our awareness, by healing those things that come to us for healing, by changing our beliefs, by directing our attention appropriately, by appropriate participation, um, by compassion, and by knowing that there's other possibilities, not just one foregone conclusion for any situation. So that is the end of the slideshow. So we'll let me stop the share. So did that bring up anything for anybody, or do you have any questions or anything like that?
I like the collective consciousness where the group can change the dynamic. We've experienced it here in LA with the fires. So the fires were maybe a year and a half ago, and so many people are still displaced. And so they came together, and in one particular case, a group of 34 houses in a neighborhood decided to get together. They lost 28 of those 34 houses and start rebuilding in a shared community with gardening, equipment, lawnmowers, all that sort of thing. And so they said, there's no reason we have to have these things one off for every family. Let's share. And so they've really raised the vibration of the neighborhood by doing that kind of thing.
Oh, nice. Good example.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for that. So if nobody has anything else, I think what I can do is a meditation, if that's all right. We got some folks that maybe need some healing. We could do a quick 9-minute meditation.
Yeah.
And I even have some, let's see if I can, I'm going to play some, I just want to start. I want to see if I can get this music going. If I could I'm even going to my computer. So let's see. Oh, there it is. Okay. All right. So I am going to try to share that real quick. Are you hearing that? It's too loud, too soft, too. Okay. All right. Okay. So find yourself sitting in your chair, supported by the chair,
Terry, it's a
supported.
little loud for your voice.
Okay. How's it? Can you still hear
The
it?
music needs to come down to hear your voice.
All right. Can you still hear it?
I can hear it, but your voice is overpowered by the music.
Still.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to turn it off because it'll take us forever to figure that out again.
Yeah, Terry, give us an opportunity to throw some names and people in the pot of the healing.
Okay.
Thank
We'll
you.
do that. Sure, of course. All right. So everybody find yourself relaxing in whatever your position that you're in and allow yourself to feel supported by whatever you're sitting on. Allow your body to just sink into the chair, into the bed, into the sofa. Now breathe in. And as you breathe out any tension or negativity. Breathe out anything that would keep you from relaxing. Take another breath in. And as you do, imagine the last thoughts that are going through your mind just feel like white, puffy clouds. They come through your mind, but you can just release them and let them go. They're nothing that you have to deal with right now. All you have to do right now is to be peaceful and relax. And now, as you realize how safe you are, understand that the warmth of the sun is shining down on you. And as the warmth of the sun shines down on you, allow it to penetrate your skull, cleansing and clearing your cells. Every inch of you is being warmed and cleansed and perfected by the warmth of the sun as it enters into your body through the top of your skull. And it travels down now through the front of your face, relaxing your forehead, down the back of your neck, relaxing your shoulders, and you find yourself becoming more and more relaxed. If you haven't done so already, allow your eyes to drift closed and focus on my voice and focus on your breathing. And just allow yourself to feel secure and safe as this energy enters into your heart, cleansing and clearing, defining, clarifying every single cell and muscle and fiber in your heart. And every drop of blood that passes through your heart is being cleansed and cleared and purified by this wonderful golden light that has entered your body. And you feel this wonderful warmth and heaviness in your heart. And this energy just comes through and it fills your lungs with beautiful rainbow colors. And these rainbow colors just relax your chest. And the next breath you take will be easier than any breath you've had today. So take that breath. Breathe in all of the healing that's around you, that's surrounding you, that's swirling around you, warming your body, cleansing and clarifying and purifying. And now allow this energy to travel into your abdomen where your digestive organs are, and allow that to cleanse and clear and purify all of those organs down into your hips, your legs, your knees, and out the bottom of your feet. Allow all the negativity to flow into the earth, and the earth gratefully opens up with this connection. And now you are connected to the earth by a beautiful, shimmering golden root system as you are grounded to the earth, yet filled with this wonderful flowing energy. And now take a moment, feeling the energy coming in from the sky, feeling it coming through your body as the channel of this energy into the earth, and feel the circuit complete as the earth sends this beautiful energy back up around you, only this time it's pink and it's shiny. And the earth takes this energy and swirls it around you. And so imagine yourself sitting with the golden energy flowing through your body to the earth. And then from the earth on the outside, this beautiful pink energy comes around you, almost like angel wings, as this energy just forms around you and enters into your head with that golden energy. And as you sit there enjoying this wonderful energy as it travels through your body, cleansing, clearing, and purifying every muscle, cell, molecule, atom, fiber of your being, and all of your etheric bodies are now being cleared and cleansed. Now remember your heart. That wonderful golden energy in your heart is now built and built and built. And this is the energy that we're going to use to heal others who aren't here right now. And so if there is someone who is in need of your healing, please put their name, please say their name. And as you say their name, imagine them standing in a circle that we have made with our arms, hands joined. Imagine them standing in the circle and us radiating this wonderful, warm, healing energy to them. So right now, add their names to the circle and their images. Take a deep breath, and as you breathe in, you can hear the chorus of angels around us, this beautiful harmony that is the frequency of our auras joined, of our healing energy that's built up in our hearts. This wonderful music surrounds these people who are in need of our healing. They could be on this planet, they could be in the next planet, they could be in the next room or in the next continent. It doesn't matter where they are. Our love, our healing energy, the healing energy of the cosmos will find them as directed by us. And now imagine all of us connected to each other, connected to those standing in the middle of our circle. And we humbly request healing for their highest and their best good. We humbly ask their higher selves to accept this energy that we have freely given, that was freely given to us. And it's with this energy and in this coherence and in this beautiful, beautiful frequency of beautiful, beautiful music that this energy enters into their hearts from ours, filling their bodies, lighting their auras, cleansing their bodies, cleansing their etheric bodies, cleansing everything about them with this wonderful energy. And then their energy returns to us. And so now we are all connected, all in coherence. Feel your heart filling up with love and gratitude. And then direct this love and gratitude to the Creator who endowed us with this beautiful energy that we are using today. Now just take a moment, maybe 3 breaths, and enjoy this wonderful connection, this wonderful energy. This wonderful frequency, this beautiful music. And now we disconnect all of the hard energies and we draw our energy back to us. And we see the people standing before us, those souls, and we see them in perfection, the way that they were born, the way that God intended. And so we take this wonderful healing energy that has come to us and has changed our bodies and our minds for the better. And we find ourselves now just slowly, softly drifting back to the room that we started from, back to the chair that we're sitting in, feeling the chair on our bodies, feeling our bodies supported, feeling our bodies relaxed, but our minds alert, our hearts full of love and gratitude. And we will take this love and gratitude that we have been given and we will spread it to everyone that we meet this week. And as we do, we will do our part to change the world. So now take a deep breath and begin to wiggle your toes and your fingers. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. When you open your eyes, you'll notice things feel just a little bit differently now. And we are so grateful for this opportunity to heal and be healed. And so it is.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Terry.
My pleasure. So we're a little bit over. Does anybody have any closing comments?
Yeah, what's happening next week?
We
It's
are
Mother's
reaching out.
Day.
Yeah, next week is Mother's Day. That could be interesting. Katrina can't do her thing, so we're going to reach out to maybe Melody, or if anybody else has any ideas about somebody to bring to the table for Mother's Day.
I won't be here either. I'm
won't?
doing a brunch, Mother's Day brunch.
Okay.
But maybe sometime Bob, Leo,
Mhm.
could maybe talk to us about dowsing
Ah, okay.
because he's been doing that for years.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's a possibility. I wouldn't do it next week, but I mean, I'll keep that in mind. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Well, Bob, were you part of the YouTube video on dowsing? Because you look very familiar, and that may be where I saw you.
Yeah, I don't think I was,
No,
not for dowsing. But
okay,
you may even see me like on near-death experiences or
good possibility. Yeah.
All right. Well, have a great week, everybody. Blessings.
And
See
happy
you in a
Mother's
week.
Day next Sunday.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.